Jak co roku, w drugi poniedziałek października świętowaliśmy w Ameryce Dzień Krzysztofa Kolumba. Właśnie w ten dzień w Fundacji Kościuszkowskiej na Manhattanie odbyła się prezentacja historyka z Uniwersytetu Północnej Karoliny Manuela pod tytułem Sekretna tożsamość Kolumba. Podczas prelekcji autor książki Kolumb – Historia nieznana przekonywał zebranych, że odkrywca Ameryki wcale nie pochodził z Włoch.
None of it is what they tell you it was. So his name was not Christopher Columbus, but Christopher Colomb. He was a high noble. He was Portuguese born, and I'll give you reasons for that later on. He never set out to reach India. He set out to make the Spanish believe that India was over here. So he pretended America was India until his dying day, but only to the Spanish court. He worked with the King of Portugal in secret to trick the Spanish, because Spain was an enemy of Portugal from 1139. Portugal had only one enemy in Europe, it was Spain. For 400 years, until Columbus came along, Portugal and Spain had been at war with each other. So he died convincing others of a lie, and he did not even look like that guy you just saw. Because the guy you just saw was a painting of some person in Italy that someone went up and put Columbus' name and sold it to some museum for a big amount of money. And now nobody says this is a painting of Columbus, and now say portrait of a man if you go to the Metropolitan, I guess it is.
The secret identity of Christopher Columbus. Hello, Mr. Rosa. Tell me, how did you start your research on Christopher Columbus?
Well, I think first I should say Dzień dobry, which is the only thing I know how to say in Polish. I wish I could speak Polish a little better. How did I get interested in Christopher Columbus? It was purely by accident. You know, I used to work in publishing, and in 1991, when there was a lot of books being written about Columbus, I worked on a translation of a book from Portuguese into English. And there I learned Columbus had been married in Portugal to a noble lady. That's how I got interested, because I'm from Portugal, and I never knew that Columbus had married in Portugal. The strange thing is who he married. He married a very noble lady in Portugal, and since I had read that Columbus was a peasant from Italy, I knew something didn't fit, and I knew something was wrong with the history. And that was the initial point that got me started on this investigation. And
where is the Polish king come into the play?
Well, the Polish king comes in really about 5 years ago when I was researching Columbus' coat of arms. I'm the first person to present Columbus's original coat of arms. And when I was researching the coat of arms, it kind of led me to believe that he was an Henriquez family. And that led me to Madeira, which is where Columbus used to live in Portugal. And it so happens that the King of Poland was living in Madeira incognito as under an assumed identity.
Can we safely say that by now you proved beyond reasonable doubt that Columbus was not Italian?
Yes, I think we can say that. If all the Italians have to show that the guy who discovered America was the guy from Italy, if all they have is the documents they've shown up to now, then we know the history is false. And I've shown how that's false, and mainly because the guy in Italy was a peasant wool weaver, and peasants did not marry nobility, and that is the end of the story.
So right now, if he's not Italian, you are suggesting that it might be a Polish king or a son of a Polish king. What happens in the history books? I mean, there's a big gap and nobody's willing to fill it.
Well, I think as my research gets better and better known, the history books will start to change. As a matter of fact, they're already changing in Portugal. Some other places are already considering that the history is not quite correct. And eventually the history books will have to be rewritten, and they have to be rewritten because the current story only makes sense if you are writing for a Walt Disney film. If you want to write about a peasant who married a princess, you can do that for Walt Disney. In the real history of medieval times, that doesn't work.
Not too many Polish people know, except for those that purchased your book, that there is a Polish connection. What do you think needs to be done right now? What Polish people can do to help you with your research so you can end it?
Well, I think there's two very important things that the public can do. One is read about my research, read my books, find out what I base myself on, what the documentation is. And the other one is to instigate with the academia and with the media that they let this new information be known to the public. Unless the public gets access to the information, they're going to continue believing in the wrong history that he was a peasant wool weaver from Italy.
Right now, do you face a lot of opposition and do you have a lot of problems proving your point? How does it look in the real life?
Well, I think I don't have any problems proving my point. I think the presentation here today, I think you realize that I base myself on documents. I don't base myself on fantasy. I have a problem in getting people to read about the research so that they can see that I've proven my point.
To prove beyond a reasonable doubt, I'm going to use this word again, the DNA testing. How much time do you need for this? What needs to be done to finally test it and say yes or no?
Come up with the truth. Well, I think it's important that we do DNA testing because we have to get to the bottom of this. I mean, we know he's not the Italian wool weaver. We know his name was not even Colombo or Columbus, so he was somebody else. I think that we owe it to all the generations that come, the future generations, that we tell them the truth. And the only way I know today to get at 100% certainty is to do DNA tests. For that, there's a lot of things that come into play. You got to get scientific teams together. You got to get financing. You have to get access to the bones in Santo Domingo, where Columbus's son and grandson and Columbus himself is buried. And we have to do a scientific investigation that is neutral and doesn't try to prove anything except the truth.
Thank you very much. We are all excited to hear that maybe America is another state of Poland, and we hope you're gonna finally, find the truth and reveal it to everybody.
Thank you. Dziękuję. So he was 20 years old. He was in a battle against the Turks, and they were severely outnumbered, like 6-1 or something like that. And the story they tell us that he decided he would just take his 500 armored knights and attack the Sultan, and kill him, and the battle would be over. And he disappeared. So what happened is that he went on the ground, he went to the Holy Land, he spent some time at the monastery of St. Catherine in Mount Sinai, which is the oldest Christian monastery in the world. He became a Knight of St. Catherine, which you can only become by visiting the monastery. And then he showed up in Portugal. And he stayed. He never went back to Poland. Now, the reason that I think he came to Portugal are two things. One is it was a Templar kingdom. It was an anti-Vatican kingdom. And he decided he did not want to go back to Poland, for whatever reasons he had to not go back there. And he figured this was probably, the Madeira was the furthest away from European civilization he could get, and there was a friendly kingdom, and a kingdom that would protect his secret.